Should you buy a home if you're moving to Orlando, Florida in 2023? Oh, this is the question everyone's asking. And in this video, I'm going to dig down to the actual cost it takes to buy a home in 2023. I'm going to weigh in the economic factors going on in the country. Is everything falling apart? Is it even worth it to buy a home in Orlando? Should you just rent or should you just pass on through? All that's going to be covered in this video right now. What's up, everyone? My name is Cameron Hodge, and on this channel, I talk about moving to and living in Orlando, Florida. Absolutely love it. I drop videos for you every single week, so don't forget to hit the subscribe and like and the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video, so you can make sure you're getting the information you need about Orlando, Florida. Also, coming at you from eXp Realty, I'm a licensed real estate agent here in Orlando, and I love helping people like yourself move to Orlando, Florida, and make real estate decisions inside this area in Central Florida. Absolutely love it. This number popping up below is how you can get a hold of me, or you can even schedule a Zoom call down below if you want to come straight to the front of the line and schedule a one-on-one conversation with me. So getting in the video, 2023, I mean, I think we all know that in the last couple of years it has been crazy, and hopefully this year it's starting shaping up to be the same way again. But should you buy a home when coming to Orlando in 2023? I think this is a big question. So many of you are probably going to be asking, and conversations that I've even had in the last couple of months. And this is a video I wanted to do to kind of dig into the fact of, like, should you do it? Doesn't make sense. And there's a lot of factors that play into this, and I wish it's not like the easiest answer. And of course, everyone's going to have a different situation, a different scenario, and that's okay. But if you need that help, you can always reach out to me and the team, and we are here to help you create that one-on-one specific plan for you. So getting into it, I think it is not, inherent to the fact if you have been looking at homes in Orlando over the last couple months, or maybe even just like now, now you're doing your first research of the topic, is here in Orlando, obviously it is not the cheap area it used to be like 5 years ago, right? Like COVID, I mean, the whole country has definitely got inflation and home prices and rates, and it is absolutely crazy. And I'm sure many of you, and I know there's some conversations I've had recently, is, it's with rates being like, so going off, I haven't gotten the numbers for December yet, but I can tell you that obviously rates are about 6 to 6.5%. But even in November, the average rate that everyone was getting on a home was about 6.6%, which is nuts. And I'll get into my opinion on rates here in a second. But obviously with rates being up, we have seen home prices start to drop since about June, July. We have started to see a steady drop in home prices, but it's not that much. It's not like it's a major landslide. No, it's not a market crash. No, it's not like a major correction. It is just we're starting to see the market soften. We're starting to see home prices go down. So if you are looking at if home prices were concerned for you, sure, they are starting to decrease. But unfortunately, those rates have really hit. I mean, you look at the beginning of the year, you can be getting like a 3% interest rate. Now you're at 6.6. I mean, you're almost tripling your mortgage payment every single month. It is not fun and it's not cool. I mean, heck, going through the process of even me getting into a new home here coming into this year as well, because hey, like I said, I like to move, is obviously I'm going to feel that pain as well with high interest rates and things like that. But with the right decisions, I still think it can make sense, but it doesn't make sense for everyone. So high rates, should you be getting into a home with rates being so high? Look, it really depends. So if you're waiting for a market crash, I can tell you that even after 2008 till now, every single year there's been someone saying, oh, I'm going to be waiting for the next market crash, and it never comes. Will there eventually be a correction? Yeah, I do think eventually we will have to see a correction in the market. I think there is a substantial gap, especially with rates being so high that people just can't afford homes. A majority. There obviously are still people buying homes every single day, but understand that I have that opinion that I think eventually we'll see a correction. Is it going to be this year? No, I do not think that. The reason I don't think that is coming to 2023, obviously, we still need more homes. Now, Orlando and Florida in general is blessed in a lot of ways. If you look at like California and like San Diego, where I came from before this, they have nowhere to build. If they build a single family community, it's going to be like $1 million home. It's insane. And if they're building condos and townhomes, it's over $500,000 to over $600,000 to get the townhome. It's nuts. Obviously, here in Orlando, we have the blessing to where, yes, homes are going to be generally more expensive than the average home price, but they are going to give you more affordability, but they're also going to help with inventory. But even with the ability to build so many homes in and around Central Florida, it's just still not enough. We still need more homes. We have never fully satisfied the need of home buyers since 2008 because home builders just stopped or they went out of business and it's been a disaster. We still need more homes to satisfy that need, even with what's on the market. I will tell you that the one blessing of higher rates is you might be able to get some more benefit from the seller. Maybe you can get some closing costs. Maybe you can have the seller buy down that rate. So maybe we're at, say, at 6.6 I mentioned. Maybe the seller's willing to give you a credit and you can buy that down to under 6%. There are a lot of ways to get creative in this market, and there are a lot of ways to kind of help you in your bottom line. I will tell you that I think eventually you will get an opportunity to refinance to a better rate. The way the feds are trying, the feds are like a one-trick pony, right? Like they only can do one thing or two things. They can raise rates and they can lower rates. That's about all they can do to help inflation. And unfortunately, I think a lot of it has been self-caused with the way things have been handled the last couple of years. But ultimately, like rates are going to fluctuate and change. And don't forget, even if you get a mortgage, you can always change that rate eventually down the future. I hate when agents say like, date the rate, buy the home. It's so stupid. Like if you can afford the home, you can afford the home. If you can't, you can't. I will tell you, be careful of like the whole Dave Ramsey thing, because he's like, you need to have like all this cash to buy a home. If you want to save cash to buy a home, I think by the average income, like you'll be waiting your entire life to never buy a home. It's just a sad fact of the matter. So be careful who you get advice from. And even with me, take it with a grain of salt. Like it always comes down to your specific situation and what you're trying to do. So like I said, like I disagree with a lot of professionals, even in my own industry, is I think we have way too much of an emphasis on, date the rate, buy the home. You should buy a home no matter what. That's just a load of malarkey. It's wrong. It's wrong advice. I really feel that you need to look at your individual situation. Because if you can afford a home, but it's going to be costing you $3,500 a month, $3,000 a month, maybe $25,000, $27,000. Why would you do that? Like why would you put yourself in a situation? Well, I'm sorry. Why would you do that if that's going to be like your maxed out income and now you can't do anything as a family? It doesn't always make sense. You need to make sure you look at your individual situation that you can afford it. Because like, look, in the name of the game, it's like, if you really want a home and that's what you want and you're willing to do whatever it takes, I applaud that, because that's the same mentality I have. But I understand that not everyone is trying to do that. And not everyone is trying to max things out. They might be okay with that $270,000, $300,000 condo that is just in a prime location, and they're willing to get into it and just enjoy that for another 2 to 5 years, and then they will upgrade to that single family home. There's a lot of ways to get into it. But I will tell you, going into 2023, last thing obviously is you need to confirm, like, should you even buy? And it's not even just a money thing. Like maybe you can afford it, but should you do it? Or should you rent? I can tell you how many conversations I've had over the last couple months where they are choosing to rent, but it's because they don't know if they want to stay here. And I fully applaud that. Now, I will tell you, I love buying homes everywhere I go because I eventually will rent them out, or I understand how real estate can work in my favor. If I buy the right home in the right area and with the right plan, that home can turn into something that can make me money down the road. But not everyone is like that. So you need to understand that if that's something you care less about, then you really need to understand, it's like, look, are you sure you want to stay in Orlando? Because if you don't love it and you're going to be living here for 6 to 12 months, and then you're going to be like wanting to move somewhere else, yeah, it probably doesn't make sense to buy a home. I will tell you, even in this market, with how crazy it is in home prices, if you're looking to stay in a home definitely less than 2 years, I'd actually recommend maybe you look at renting. Unless, of course, you mentioned what I said before, which is trying to turn that thing into something that makes you money down the road as a rental or things like that. Understand that it might not make sense for you, because I really do feel that if you are living less than 2 years, like, look, with the home prices, and yeah, you might be able to refinance your rate in those 2 years, but does it really make sense with how rents are? Are you going to be able to actually make any money if you sell it? Like, it gets a little weird, especially, who knows? Maybe in the next 5 years, we do see that slight market correction. Like I said, but if you buy a home now and you're paying on it for 5 years, no matter what happens, you're going to be in a good spot 5 years down the road. Look, it's even during the crash of 2008, when they lost all the home values, they have not only met 2008 values, they have extremely exceeded those values. So even if you're in a position where you were actually going to be losing money in 2008, but you held on to it, you paid for it all this time, you still walked away substantially better years down the road. And that's how real estate generally works, is if you buy smart in the beginning, it just works out down the road in your favor. So if you do decide to rent though, like, what are you getting into? Well, you're getting into not cheap rent. So we're not talking about the outskirts of Orlando. We're not talking about heading into the middle of nowhere. We're talking about just in central Orlando itself. roughly, right? So obviously the average apartment rent is about $1,900, $2,000 a month. And that's only for like just under 1,000 square feet. It's not a big apartment. And I've seen home rents be even around $3,000 plus per month in central Orlando for a home. Obviously, when you start to go on the outskirts, you can see anywhere between to about $2,500, $2,200 a month, depending if he has a pool, no pool, things like that, and the size, of course. So obviously, other cheaper homes the further you get from Orlando. But for those in central Orlando, I've definitely seen home prices, even like for rent, be like $3,000 a month. And it's become common for a lot of these places to require 3 times the monthly rent in income in order to qualify. In my opinion, is if I'm already doing that, like I might as well freaking buy a home, you know? So there's a lot of things you need to consider if you are not choosing to buy, realizing that that cost is still there. And if you're not renting because you're looking to get, you know, the ability to move in a short period of time, if you choose not to live in Orlando, like I know I've talked to a lot of people who come to Orlando and they're looking to possibly live here, but also travel to Tampa, travel to Miami. Like they want to look at everywhere in Florida and use Orlando as their starting point to figure out where they want to live. And I think that's an awesome idea. But understand that if you're not trying to do that and you have the ability to buy a home, it still makes sense overall, because if you're already putting a security deposit down and paying that money every month, buying a home generally is going to be a good idea. The negative thing is you might not be able to buy in the same area you would rent, depending on obviously the home price, which you can afford and things like that. So you need to understand there's a lot that goes into this topic. It's not as simple as just I'm going to rent anywhere instead of buy, like, because rents itself have definitely skyrocketed in Orlando, and it's getting a little, I'll admit it, it's definitely a little bit harder to buy a home because then you include insurance and taxes and all the crazy costs that come with buying a home, and it definitely adds up. And I will tell you that it's not a huge win to buy a home, but you definitely generally in this time you can still come ahead. The benefit about buying homes right now, like I said, is the ability to get closing costs, ability to have sellers buy down your rate. Like you're kind of getting that money, and it's kind of where do you want it to go? Decreased home price, some closing costs, repairs. Where do you want that credit from the seller to go? It doesn't mean you're always going to get it, but it is obviously in this market with rates increasing, sellers are having to do just a little bit more to be able to get their homes sold. Not in every neighborhood. Some neighborhoods are still hot and heavy. It's just always going to be that way. There are always going to be areas around Orlando that are just going to be hot ticket items, and that just is what it is. But if you're like me and you're willing to be flexible where you live in order to get the best situation for you, not only financially, but also just living wise, then I think you're in a great position in order to be flexible. But understand that obviously if you have a home, you have to live in a certain area, that could dictate if you're buying or renting. So make sure, obviously, if you don't have a plan in place, you need to have one. Make sure if you don't need one, or you need one and you don't have one, you can reach out to this number below, call, text, email, whatever you have to do. Me and the team are here to help you create that plan. When you reach out, you're reaching out to me, and we're going to have a conversation about, how we can get you established and get the right plan for your specific situation in Orlando. And hey, who knows? Maybe we run everything. Maybe we get you look at what you can afford to buy a home, and maybe we end up deciding together that renting is a better decision. It all comes down to obviously your personal situation. So obviously reach out if you need to have that plan made. We absolutely love it. I love helping people like yourself make those plans and making sure it's the right one for them, not only just to get into a home, but making sure they can freaking afford it and it's the right plan for them. Just being fully honest here. So hope you got value in this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.